Guys, what's up? Hey, back for another let's talk about it, right? Maybe that'll be like the theme of all of this. But if you haven't watched these in the past, I try to just give you guys some thoughts that I go into my phone for my personal notes and stuff that I've been thinking on for a while. I've mulled it over, maybe I've had a conversation with a close friend just before I give you guys some content, so it's somewhat not just thought, at least at an adequate level that I think would be a value add for you guys. If I'm still mulling it over, if I'm not quite content with kind of like where I'm at with it, I'd rather save it and give you guys something a little bit more polished, at least from my thought perspective. So the next one I want to dive into you guys for is being resilient. So from a coaching perspective, right? Building resiliency for people that I coach versus allowing them to be reliant on me, right? So, and really what I'm getting at with that is just, and this is just my opinion of coaching, so whether it's elite coaching like I do, one-on-one coaching, whether it's team coaching, whether it's athletic coaching, whatever it may be, the ideology behind building you to be resilient versus reliant. Resilient folks are people that improvise, adapt, and overcome and understand fundamentals, and they make pivots based off of independent circumstances that are fundamentally related to their intentions, their goals, their skill sets, and then just what's in front of them and what that mission is, what their intention is on what they want to accomplish, versus them memorizing a response to a situation or memorizing a certain way to do something in a certain situation, and then when fundamentally the same thing happens but it's a different environment, them not either understanding how to do it at all, or they're so focused on just the one intention that you've given them, they end up missing a lot, right? So story time, I'll give you an example. In coaching, we coach people on events, we coach people on either throwing their own events, attending their own events, a lot of different things, right? Social media, YouTube, a ton, but right now let's send the focus of like events. I went to an event the other night and it was a car show, it was like a car cruise, late night, like guys meeting up with cool cars and everything like that. I decided to go because I met a guy who had a car cleaning detail company. Like he sells products that you use for detailing, I guess all cars, but focusing on high-end cars and all that good stuff. And watching his brand, he's got a good brand, he had a good eye for design, just really cool stuff. And the gentleman that I met that introduced me to him was the guy that details my car. He uses the guy's products, and I haven't gotten out and like dove into like other events, like different style events, not just real estate events, which are a lot of times one-dimensional and everybody understands, I guess, what you're there for. While there, a couple hundred cars showed up. I get to meet the guy, park at the booth. He loved the car so much, the Lamborghini that I drive, and the work that was done on it. He was like, hey, would you mind if it's at the booth? I said, yeah, man, no problem. So I get to park up front of him at the booth, and lo and behold, right, like his wife's a realtor, right? So super cool. So we're talking about YouTube channels and everything else. And I'll get to the point there in a second. Food trucks were there. So I got to network and just ask some questions to these food trucks on where they tour, what they like to do, what type of events they like to do. Obviously, I throw events, so there's some congruency there. In addition to that, I met a couple of videographers and photographers that were there, right? So through all of this, when I coach a lot of agents, they tend to hold on to like one intention versus exposing themselves and diving into an environment and allowing their skill sets and their communication skill sets and their relationship skill sets and their relationship interests to just take the forefront of why they're there in the first place, right? So agents would go there, and I expressed this to some agents and kind of got their thoughts on it. And a lot of people might not think that that's a positive, ROI positive for an overall event based off of intent. Like, hey, what are your intentions, right? Well, I build brands. I build business and I build brands. And on the surface, right, it could look like, hey, that event's not very productive then. You only met one agent. You've got videographers, right? And hey, food trucks are cool, but you can look those up, you can make phone calls versus like the relationship side of things. So the first point is when it comes to meeting more agents, like if you're in the real estate game and you're meeting more agents, or you want to acquire or meet more agents, to get in front of more agents, you don't have to meet 30 agents at a time to get in front of more agents, right? Just like you don't have to catch all 10 mice in your house to catch 10 mice in your house, right? Like you've got to find one and they'll lead you to the rest, right? And it's no different in relationships. Take the realtor out of it, but yes, we are in the same profession, but the bottom line is I got to meet her husband who's got this brand, which is awesome, right? This Gorilla brand does great on cars, and get to meet with him. And the first thing that I did with him to just show that intention was appropriate is he was showing me all of these products, and I'm grabbing everything that I need. And as we're conglomerating everything, I purchase everything. And when I was talking to some of my students, I asked them, I said, hey, how much do you guys think I got for free? They thought 300, 500. I said, cool, better question. How much you guys think I was offered for free? And same number. I said, cool, I spent $300. And I spent that money because the intention I wanted to give this gentleman was, hey man, no matter how much you like my car and you love to promote my car, I'm not here with the intention of a sponsorship or what's in it for me. I'm a small business, that's where I started anyway, right? And we've grown pretty large now, but I take pride in that. And like, look man, he's got a great brand and he's out there hustling and doing his thing. Like, why not support the guy? Like, he doesn't need to have another sponsorship. Like, why can't I just promote his product and put my car in front of it if I like the product? Like, why does everything have to be a buck? It doesn't, right? So I spend the money on that. That also sets the tone for his impression of me when it comes to his approval of me toward his wife, right? So if she ever, her and I were talking about YouTube and how we've kind of changed the game doing real estate through YouTube. That was a great conversation because her husband, right, who I met first, his impression of me is appropriate, bottom line. So as we're talking on Instagram after that event and some of the things that we're talking about doing in the future, right? Like, it sets the tone for why I'm there in the first place, the type of person that I am, and if I can be trusted or not. And those things start there, right? So, and yes, she knows a ton of realtors. So that's your other thing, right? Of like, you don't have to be in front of 30 realtors, 300 realtors, 5,000 realtors to have something pan out for you. What you do have to be is relational. What you do have to do is have intent and actually care about people, whether there's anything on the backside of that or not, right? Of just doing the right things for the right reasons and what that can lead to. So that's where those are wins. So videographer folks, so we have some young kids out there that were making amazing shorts and stuff for all these fancy cars. And I had a kid hit me up. I guess I shouldn't share his name, but I had a kid hit me up. And he's asking me if he can do more work on the car. He said, hey, can I shoot the car? Yeah, man, absolutely. Let's have some fun. I had some agents talk to me and it's like, yeah, but like he shoots cars. Like, how does that correlate? It correlates because it's content. This is where you guys are missing it. This kid has a skill set. Two kids have a skill set in content creation. I don't care if it's cars or an event, whatever it may be, it's content creation. They're also ambitious to do more. So even if I don't need a videographer for like cool shit per se, obviously I'm being filmed by something, right? Fat, he's he's the main dude, the guy we've used for a long time, unless he's busy and we use someone else. But what about the 100+ realtors that work under us, right? What about everything else that we're doing? What if Fat needs a second hand with something at a large event? Could there be a use for just getting exposure from another videographer, not only for our agents, but for self if we have a bigger project? Don't know if I'm gonna use those guys or not, but hey, allowing them to do more video on the car and going out and meeting them and building those relationships, it's going to give me more context on who they are as people, the product they can provide, and hey, I bet they're hungry for opportunity, right? So there's relationships there. And then the one I spoke about when it came to the food trucks, what they like to do, where they like to go, what their prices are, and just, hey, being able to promote them, because if they're out at 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night at a car meet to make money, they're probably hungry. And that's what everyone's demeanor is out there when they're hustling, selling something and building impressions. It's 10 o'clock on a Sunday. I don't care if you like cars or not. It's Sunday night, it's 10 o'clock. Everybody's got stuff to do on Monday, yet they're still out there pushing their brand and their business because they're hungry. I wanted to put myself into an environment that was very similar to what I feel my demeanor and where my place is when it comes to my level of ambition. And I met a lot of great guys there, and there was a lot of benefit to the 5 or 6 relationships that I was able to pull. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to do something with me. I'm not saying I'm going to do something with them. Seeds are planted, right? And this is where like you don't necessarily need to overpromise videographers, hey, we could do this event and this event. Like, nah, it's not needed. Just put yourself in an environment where they can come do some work. And over time, if that relationship solidifies and do a great job, you can offer more. But the bottom line was, when you're building brand and building business, you've got to immerse yourself into different communities and allow fundamentals of relationship building, intent, and your own intuition to take over and really feel where you can build and where the pivot's at. If you're always looking one-dimensional into the one thing that could work, I'm looking to go acquire realtors, I'm looking for more sellers and buyers, and that's your sole focus and you're so one-dimensional there, hey, you might find that at a decent level, but I wonder how much you're missing just trying to go straight there with that goal. That's where I tend to like lean and be more fundamentally sound. So when I get back, long story long here, when I get back to creating guys that I coach, girls that I coach, when I talk about creating resiliency versus reliance, that's what I'm talking about. If they're reliant on me, it's one-dimensional. They're going to take 1 or 2 things away from it that they're memorizing for me on how to respond to something or where to go to something. And then they're just doing that. And then they're just looking for that. And it's not enough to become successful. And then they're pointing a finger back at you because you're the problem in the lack of their success. You'd say no. The reality is, as a leader, it is your problem because you've made them reliant upon you versus being resilient. A lot of coaches, I think, also just have this insecurity of they've got to always find a reason to maintain that client versus understanding coaching is limited. If you've been with me for 12 months, you need to go. I'm going to have you for a year max, and then you need to go. And if you ever come back, you're coming back because now I'm coaching you as a coach. Now I'm coaching you as a fellow leader, as a peer, which is different, which requires a different skill set, 100%. But once you're through with me after 12 months, you should be at a level of practitionership where you can execute your own battlefield of business at a high level and go gain a ton of experience before you then come back and choose to be prepared as a leader where we then coach to coach. But if you're not graduating away from some of that stuff after 12 months, I'm curious if it's your own lack of proficiency, or if I'm curious if you're just being reliant on your coach. And hey, if it's lack of proficiency or effort, I'm wondering why your coach isn't letting you go. Because if we're actually getting real coaching, then there's a standard of effort and a standard of proficiency that's required. And if you're not hitting those, then you're cut from coaching. That's probably one of the most respected pillars I have as far as a condition within coaching that most don't. My main source of income is not coaching. We make a ton of money through real estate, through our courses and everything else that we absolutely love. The coaching is something I do because I'm passionate about it, but because I don't need it, then my decisions aren't predicated on needing that dollar that you're giving me to pay my bills, right? If you're not proficient, if you're not intentional with your efforts, you're gone. Guess how much that makes people turn it up a notch, which means their level of effort is there. So when we are learning how to be resilient, well, then our level of effort, intention, and the requirements are met in order to actually become resilient, because it's a lot easier to just be reliant and get the answer versus resiliency. Have a great day.